Say Something. It's like a podcast, but it's a vodcast, so you can listen and watch. It's like news talk or sports talk, but it's life talk, so we can walk the road together. On today's show, JT Olsen, author, entrepreneur, and founder of Both Hands, joins us to chat about passion and purpose, even when born from tragedy. Thanks for joining the conversation. Here we go. This is JT and Sara Olsen.
Hello.
Now here's the deal. They don't know what they're getting into in this car, so...
I just thought I'd hop in the car and drive.
I know, it's really
okay.
the truth. JT Olsen, author and entrepreneur, is founder of Both Hands. After being orphaned as a child alongside his 4 siblings, JT went on to start a faith-based nonprofit serving orphans and widows. His powerful story will leave you inspired to be an agent for impact. He and Sara live in Nashville with their 5 children. Find JT at bothhands.org and at Give Both Hands on Instagram and Twitter. I really wanted JT to come share his story and really talk mostly about, and this is where we might stop and just chat because it might be easier just to pull in and then we won't.
Right.
But just to share about people when you go through hard times, that you really can take the stuff in your life that may or may not be good, and it can still speak into your purpose and your passion. And this is JT's book. It's called Sorry, The Orphan, the Widow, and Me. And I just love the cover. I love the cover. I do. I love it.
So neat.
I think it's it's so engaging even on the cover, and it breathes into your story, and then the story, like your story personally, and the story of what you're doing right now. And so, JT Olsen, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I love telling the story of Both Hands, and I love it because it really does. It just speaks of God's grace, His sovereignty, and really His love for us. How He can take something hard, it's difficult, but I always like to tell the story because I like to tell from how it started. All right. You know, because I was on the board of Bethany Christian Services. I was just a board member trying to give back to the community, and one year I was in charge of the fundraiser, and I chose to do it.
Okay, so Bethany Christian Services is an adoption.
Right.
Yes. I was on their board, and one year my job was to be in charge of the fundraiser, and I chose to do a golf tournament. You know, where you mail letters out and say, would you sponsor me? Well, I mailed all my letters out. I had a buddy who I was in a Bible study with. He mailed my letter back to me, but he didn't send a check. He just scribbled on my letter. He said, JT, if you told me you were working on a widow's house, I might sponsor you. But you're just golfing. Nice cause, but not my money.
Wow.
And it hurt my feelings a little bit, you know, but at the same time I thought, gee, that's a good idea, you know, and it just, I mean, I called him a couple days later and we laughed about it and talked about it, and he still didn't give me any money, but the idea just never left me. Whenever I saw a golf tournament or a 5K or anything like that, I kept asking myself, if they were working on a widow's house instead of running around a track, or would it be more effective? But I couldn't figure out how to put it together. So I'm in church 3 years later, running a good friend of mine, just hadn't seen him a couple months. I said, hey, Don, what's up? And he says, I'm adopting 4 kids from Moldova.
4 kids. Yes.
I said, what happened? He said, I went over there on a mission with Sweet Sleep, where they deliver beds to orphanages.
Okay.
I fell in love with this little boy. His 11-year-old boy is named George, and throughout the rest of the week we were inseparable. And my wife and I said, let's start the adoption process. Well, we found out in the adoption process, he's got 3 siblings. Don looked at me and he said, we're not going to break the siblings up. Well, when he said that made me think about, really, when I was 12, in 1969, we lived on a farm in northeastern Iowa. Yeah. And there was 5 of us kids, and one weekend I remember in March, my mom and dad left to celebrate their 16th wedding anniversary. And us kids were kind of farmed out to different places, and I remember Saturday night we were being brought home because they were coming home. Mom and dad were coming home, and I'd played in the barn all day. I was dirty, so I had to go out in the basement and change. My older brother went upstairs, but I remember sitting on this chair in the basement, bending over, unlacing my boots, and my brother came down the stairs, and I looked up at him.
Your younger brother?
My older brother.
Your older brother.
And I said, I was excited, you know. I said, are Mom and Dad home? And he looked at me, and he said, Mom and Dad are dead.
JT.
Yeah.
How old were you?
12.
12 years old.
And I looked at him, and I said, what? He said, Mom and Dad are dead. They were killed in a car accident an hour ago. He walked upstairs. He had just found out.
How old was your brother?
He was 15.
How many of you?
There's one who was 14, and we had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. My little sister was 5 and 3.
Wow.
But I remember hitting the floor. I remember that cold cement floor and wailing like any 12-year-old would wail. And the thoughts that went through my head. I just remember what it's like to be an orphan. I remember it's like being told those words. I know it's like to wonder who's going to take care of us.
Yeah, and not want to be separated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know what it's like to wake up the next morning and just really for the first 30 seconds, 40 seconds, you're just thinking it was a dream.
I bet.
And then the next 15 seconds, you wrestle with everything you've got to make sure it's a dream.
Because you want it to be a dream.
Be a dream so bad.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not. And
I'm
I know that
sorry.
feeling. And I know that feeling, and I know what it's like. But I also know what it's like to be rescued.
Yeah.
Because 3 months before the accident, my mom and dad changed their will. That if
Really?
anything would happen to them, us 5 kids would go live with my aunt, my mom's sister and her husband. And they changed their will, vice versa. My aunt and uncle lived in a very nice suburb of Milwaukee called Brookfield. They had 3 kids of their own. And they took all 5 with them.
33. They were 33.
They were 33 years
years
old.
old.
How old were your parents?
My mom was 37. My dad was 59.
Do the
Okay.
math on that.
Yeah.
That was so, I mean, it was...
And so it was her younger sister.
Who took all 5 with them.
And how old were their 3 children?
They were in 6th grade, 4th grade, and they had a 2-year-old.
So you did this with them, pretty much.
Yeah. It would be what you would call a kinship adoption.
That's
Foster care.
amazing.
Oh,
They're so
they're
beautiful.
heroes. They're my
kidding.
heroes. They're just amazing.
They had just
And,
started their business 3 years before.
A year before they'd started a business, and I mean, so there was
New business.
all of a sudden their family went from 5 to 10.
Well, and so abruptly losing her sister.
Oh, and they were.
And they were-
I
close.
mean,
They were
the
best friends.
heartache.
They were best friends.
Boy,
tight.
that's brutal.
It is hard, and all those years, my aunt really never had time to really grieve it. You know, because she was too busy taking care of
bet
kids.
she
She was
didn't have any
making.
time
She had
to
3
grieve.
shifts of breakfast in the morning for kids. She had the high school shift. She had the junior high kids.
Oh,
And she had
yeah.
the, I mean, it was like, and then
Well, and are they boys? Are they brothers ahead of you?
2 older brothers, yeah. And then there's
Wow.
me.
So
and then there's
she hit teenagers in the midst of all that. True blue.
Yes.
That would be hard
Two-
because she really didn't have that.
No.
yeah,
And
true
she only had
teenagers.
girls before.
2 teenagers, 3 teenagers who just lost their parents.
Oh man,
Well, so back to the story with Don.
you got
When
it.
Don looks at me and says, "We're not going to break up the siblings," I'm the just right guy to say
Yeah,
that. to.
you are the just
I'm
right
the
guy.
just right guy. 'Cause
I love that, the
I'm not
just
gonna,
right guy.
I'm not going to sit there and say, "Are you sure?" I mean, I sat there and I remember so clearly the thought that went through my head, and that was, here's a man who's trusting God in a way that I envy. I want to trust God the way Don is trusting him, because he's taken 4 kids and, whew. And I asked him, I said, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, because that is okay. Adoption is an expensive endeavor.
It's
And
huge.
did they do that as a group, or was it for each child?
Well, it was. I mean,
There's
the whole
some-
the
So
whole
it was
thing.
expensive.
Yeah, he said it's going to cost
Yes.
about $65,000.
Wow.
And I asked him. I said, "Do you know how you're going to raise that money?" He said, "No." And I said, "I think I got an idea."
Because it made you think back to the
The whole
The golf
yeah,
whole golf
Because
tournament.
remember,
It's
for-
like, okay.
Yeah.
for 2-3 years, that's been marinating in my mind.
Right.
I mean, I literally met with 3 or 4 businessmen, shared my ideas, and just trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was to raise money for sonograms and stuff like that. You
Right.
know, but
and you're like, no.
so I told
So
Don.
the just right guy at the just right time.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. And Don and I put together a plan. We recruited about 13, 14, 15 other friends. We all mailed letters out saying, would you sponsor me while I work in this widow's house? We got all the supplies that we needed donated, either local merchants or individuals. So we didn't spend any money.
Wow.
And we spent the day working on her house. And when it was over, we'd raised over $70,000.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Okay,
Wow,
so
is
you,
right.
you work on the widow's house to raise the money, and then the money goes to the adoption.
Right. Explain
That's really okay. That's fascinating.
The widow gets free labor. She gets
Yeah.
loved on. She gets her house fixed up, cleaned up, decluttered, and all the money, 100% of the money, goes towards the cause of the adoption.
My gosh,
and we don't.
that's so cool.
We don't take any money out either.
So it's 100%.
100% what they raise,
family
because we raise our operations
That's
expense on the
really
side.
neat.
We do that on the side.
Wow.
We have friends who support both hands,
Yeah.
so that the families are able to use everything that they raise for their adoption.
And so since we started, and that was that first project, that kind of experimental project to see if this thing would work, it was the first one that happened in March of 07. We did another project in April of 08, and it was at the end of that second project where Sara and I went out to eat after that project, and I was a little bit bubbly, probably, I was just on fire saying, this is amazing, because what we did was amazing at that house. And I remember we put on a new roof in that lady's house.
Well, and tell who that lady was.
Oh, she was the widow of a teacher who taught my son. She had lost her
Really?
husband in a car accident in November.
In a car accident, of all things.
And he was...
I mean, really, like your folks.
I know, that's right. Yeah.
And so she needed help. She needed a new roof. And it was only our second project. I mean, there's a lot of ways God came together in that project. But I remember climbing up on that roof, carrying shingles up, and working that little gun thing. I put some shingles in. And the
farm boy coming back out.
Yeah, really, so
but
true.
I know.
But I stood in that roof and I looked out at that neighborhood. I looked at all those people. There was 52 people there helping that day.
52.
I mean, I saw in the front and back the way we transformed her lawn and house was amazing. I looked out, I counted 19 different cars, all parked all over the place. I thought, what a testament. But what it reminded me of was, I remember about a month after the accident, going back to when I was 12 now, my little sisters, who were 5 and 3, moved in immediately with my aunt and uncle in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Us 3 boys stayed on the farm to finish the school year out, and also to help with the farm, because my dad had a brother, Uncle Clifford, who lived with us.
Okay.
Uncle Clifford was 65. He couldn't farm by himself.
Right.
And it was 400 acres. And my dad also had a sister who was a widow. She came in and lived with us. So though she did our cooking and cleaning, Uncle Clifford just kind of helped keep things in order, and us 3 boys went to school and finished the school year out. But I remember about a month after the accident, getting off the bus. It was a beautiful April day. And our bus stop's about a half mile from the house. It's on a hill. You can see a lot of the farm. And I remember getting off the bus, and there were all our neighbors in the fields, plowing our fields, planting our crops. They were taking care of
everything,
what we needed. It was amazing. And
it's like the Juvics and the...
Yeah, there's Bert Juvic, Everett Ellison, Leland Meyer, Bob Grana, Johnny Wolf, Ed Cooper. I remember those farmers. They're all...
Just everyone stepping in and doing what you needed.
Yeah, when you're a farm kid, you know whose tractor belongs to who.
Oh, I bet that's
you're
true.
driving there, you know whose tractor that is. And I looked out in the fields and I thought, look at all this. This is amazing. But it never left me. And when I stood on that roof of that second project and saw those cars, that's what made me think about it. I thought, this is living. Sara, my bride back here, she has a way of putting some things, and one thing I've heard her say many times, God doesn't waste our sorrows. He doesn't waste our tears. And he can take something that's hard and turn it into something that's just amazing.
How do you get to that point where you let him do that?
You know what? I think it's probably a series of things. I don't know if it's any one thing. It's probably, for me, it was a series of things. It was just the business I was in. I wasn't enjoying it. And I thoroughly enjoyed putting on this project. I thought, I'm good at this. This is what I want to do. This is more of my gifting. It takes all the gifting and skills that I developed for 30 years in the business world, puts them to use in a way that wasn't being put to use before. And it was clear. And plus, I had some people around me that I recruited a board of some people who believed in it.
Yeah.
And they were so supportive. And it's just...
Well, there's a saying, your pain becomes your platform.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Your pain
And that's true.
becomes your platform.
I mean, you would never pick your pain. You'd wish you could escape it, right? If you're human at all. But the fact is, God brings it for a reason. He always uses it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this, both hands, is what this man was made for. It's what it was all leading up to. All of his life was this, both hands. You've never met a man more happy in his calling than this one.
Yeah.
And God redeems it. God is in the business of restoring the years that the locusts have eaten.
Mm-hmm.
That's his specialty.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But we've done, and the exciting thing is
you'll
that
love
we've
this.
done 684 projects now in 42 states.
Wow.
684 projects.
In
9 years.
In 9 years. That's incredible.
I guess 10 years. The first one was in 07. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it would be
but
10
we
years.
weren't
But
in
we
an
weren't
I
official.
am good at that new
Yeah,
math.
that's
Yeah.
Care about math.
So 684 projects in 42 states. We've raised $7.9 million for families to use for adoptions.
Wow, that's
awesome?
insane.
And 100% has gone towards that. We don't take anything out. 735
That's amazing.
735 widows have been blessed. And I think it's 817 kids are no longer orphans.
Wow.
That's living.
That is living.
That's living, baby.
That is amazing.
So it's amazing what we get to do. I can't believe we get to do this. For me, it was like I was 52 when I started Both Hands. It was like God was saying, this is what it's all been about. Just tee it up and swing. Everything, all the trainings, everything's right. Now I just want you to do what comes natural to you.
Wow, that's
Tell the
amazing.
story. That's what I do, and it's fun.
It is great.
well, and it was so natural as well. I mean, it all unfolded on the heels of our adoption of Grace.
That's right. So you had 3 kids and almost an
4.
amazing 4 kids, and even an amazing story as that goes.
That is an amazing story.
And then you had this beautiful Grace enter your life.
Beautiful Grace.
Well, it's true.
She is.
Yeah.
She's precious.
And I remember in that story, it's just there was a point, and for me that's one of the starting points of all this, everything with adoption. Now God kind of pricks at your heart, and sometimes a little bit harder.
Right.
Opens up it a little bit. But I remember the night, it was December 24th, 2001 was my moment, because I was headed up. My wife had sent me to the attic to get the stockings to hang by the chimney with care. And I went up in that attic. And before this, we had this discussion for probably 2-3 years about adoption. I was on the board of Bethany. I was on the board of Bethany because I'm pro-life and I want to do anything I could to, like I said, put money where your mouth is and do whatever I had to do to help, and not just be against it, but to help.
Yeah, what are you for?
And so we kind of danced around this adoption issue, and I would come home from a meeting and my wife I'd say, well, there's a couple kids just born at the neonatal unit downtown Baptist, and she said, let's go see them. And I'd say, what do you mean? We can't afford it, dear. We just started a business. We're trying to do this. We haven't taken a salary. Anything we do, if we want to adopt a baby, we're gonna have to go into our life savings. Do you want to go into our life savings? And that would usually shut her up. And then at one point,
very practical.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how most guys are, and that's
It
the
is
guys
so
that are
true.
always the last one to join because they're thinking
Right.
money.
Yeah.
We can't afford it. Okay, so
true.
one time this discussion happened, and at one point she said, listen, I got 4 kids right now, and I'll be happy the rest of my life with these 4 kids.
Right.
I could take 1 more. I'll be happy with 1 more. I can take either one. What I can't take is the yes one day from you and the no one day, and the yes and the no and the up and down. So you can talk about adoption with your friends, talk about anybody else, but stop talking with me about it.
Yeah.
I said, just so you know, us, the kids and I are on board. We'll adopt. When you get on board, let us know.
And then lo and behold.
Oh, well, then every night I'm putting the kids to bed, and they're
Yeah.
saying prayers and saying, dear God, please let Daddy let us adopt. And, and I mean,
You were getting the full course.
yeah. So all that leads up to this Christmas Eve, and I'm walking up to the attic, and I look around the attic, and I see strollers and high chairs and cribs and car seats. And I say, the thought hit me, we've got everything we need to raise a child.
Yeah.
What's wrong with using a life savings to save a life?
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Well,
Life savings to save a life.
that was my watershed moment.
Right.
That's when it hit me. I thought, what's important? What's important in life? What's not going to rust? What's not going to burn? What's not going to blow away?
Yeah.
And it's not an IRA.
Right.
And I walked down the stairs. I told Sara, I said, we've got everything we need. I said, we got car seats, we got cribs, we got high chairs. And she thought I was about to say, it's time for a yard sale. Let's just step out of here.
And it was just the opposite. Oh, I do. It's like, finally, get it out of here.
Yeah. But I looked at her and I said, we've got everything we need. What's wrong with using a life savings to save a life? We should adopt. And she said, are you serious? I said, yeah.
There's nothing more natural than one orphan making a way in the world for the next orphan.
Yeah.
And in God's economy, I feel like the best investments we'll ever make are in people who have no ability to repay us.
Part of your job that you did when you were in college was selling books, which just seems like, I'm just going to tell you, I sold the Waco Tribune Herald newspaper over the telephone, so I kind of get a little bit of what, not door to door, but I did it over the phone, which was probably a little less rejection than someone slamming the door in my face, but it was a brutal job. And I loved how you say this. If you act, that really hit you, if you act enthusiastic, you become enthusiastic. And you said, I realized for the first time in my life that I'm in charge of my attitude, not someone else. What a difference that made for us all. And so as you apply it to even where you are right now, and just encouraging the folks that might be listening to this, in whatever place they have found themselves.
You said it the best way, is that we're in charge. When we ever give up control of our attitude to somebody or something else, we're basically, I think we're giving in to the enemy. And I really think that we're meant, especially as believers, to have a heart of joy, a heart of, we've been redeemed. I mean, we got a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot of things to be thankful for when you think about it, even though, and I don't know what it's like to be in some situations that people are in, and I know things are hard, but you're the one who controls it.
Yeah.
I don't know if, and literally sometimes I have to say out loud, and I've taught my kids this, to sit there and say, repeat after me. I'm alert, alive, friendly, cordial, firm, and enthusiastic. I'm alert, alive, friendly, cordial, firm, and enthusiastic. Look in that mirror. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, look in that mirror. So you good-looking thing, don't you ever die. Come on.
I'm alert. I'm alive. I'm enthusiastic.
I'm alert, alive, friendly, cordial, firm, and enthusiastic.
I love that. Did you make that up?
Me and another couple guys kind of put that together.
Yeah, it's really good.
It is. It's like, you do that 4 or 5 times in a row, you know what? You will feel better.
That's true.
Yeah.
You will feel better. You can't not.
That's
Just
really
try it.
good.
You can't. Try it.
I love that.
But I'm a big believer in you gotta have a good attitude.
Well, you both are so sunshiny. But I can tell, and I do think when you find that zone, when you really are doing what you're created to do, there is an element of glowing. And I underlined this too, because Sara said, well, I did. Because you said to him, JT, you are positively aglow. And I wrote right there, God working through. Because it's true. You sit there and think of Moses when he came off the mountain, he was glowing. He didn't know he was glowing, and he wasn't like, glow, glow.
No, right.
No, it was purely the Lord working through him. So what a beautiful testimony. What a beautiful testimony to so many things. And so thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. It's very humbling.
I bet.
To think that God could use someone like me for this, and it's humbling.
Okay, so on that note, my friend Brenda, who does this with me, she loves to give a charge, and Dr. Evans sat in that seat and gave us a charge of what to do. And along those, that humbling, I can't believe it's not me. Do you have a charge that you could give to listeners that might not feel like they could do anything?
I think we're all equipped. I think I was 52 when I started Both Hands. So it's not like, I was 25 and I knew exactly what I was going to do. I mean, there was a lot of years. In fact, someone pointed out to me the other day, you were 12 years old when the accident happened.
Yeah.
And you were 52 when you started Both Hands.
Wow.
It's a 40-year difference.
Wow.
There's biblical significance to 40 years.
Yeah.
I was in the desert. I didn't know I was in the desert. I mean, I was working, I'm making a living, I was developing skills and stuff, but it was 52 is when it was okay, this is what it was all about. And my encouragement, I got several, but one of them is, don't give up. I mean, you may be in a position right now that God is using wherever you're at to train you, to hone you, to get you ready for something you've got in store. It's going to be right in your sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like God was literally telling me, JT, this is what it's all been about. Just tee it up and swing. Just swing. And
I would say this too, as the wife. All right, so he's owns this executive search firm and a partner. He's not loving the work he's doing. He's got this idea. He wants to help widows and orphans. He wants to start a nonprofit. Hello, this is 2008.
Right.
Think about 2008. What happened financially 2008?
Right.
Right? It's 2008. And I'm going, honey, babe, we have 5 kids. Count them.
Yeah.
Like, health insurance would be lovely. And finally he said, Sara, I feel like if I wait one more day, it's like I'm being defiant. God's been that clear with me. And I remember thinking, okay, Sara, when you got married, did you say this man and a house in Brentwood and a wine membership and my kids have nice clothes? Or did you say this man? And I thought about it. I said, really? I said, God, just this man. Give me this one man and everything else. But this I want. And so I said, well, sister, the captain just said the ship is sailing that away. Put on your big girl panties. It's time to go to work. And I went from being a stay-at-home homeschooling mother of 5, went to work at Belmont University in admissions and then in development. And God had a plan in all of it. I remember driving down to work my first day. I'm in my car. Had just gone to coffee and lunch for my birthday with my friends. I had my little presents on and pictures of my family that I'm going to put on my desk at work.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm crying.
I
and
bet
I'm
you
just
are, because
thinking,
you're like, at my work.
Yes, my work is my kids.
back
That's what
there.
I want. It's back there. And I remember crying and just say, Lord, how can this be in our best interest? I mean, I know it's what JT wants to do. Is it in Nick's best interest? No. And, and I just went through everybody in the family. I felt like God was nudging my heart. Sara, there's one more person in the family. But you know how a mom is.
Right.
Like, you're never thinking about what's in your best. You're just thinking about them.
No, it's so true.
And I felt like he was prompting my heart. Sara, I've got you. This is for you too. It's not just for him. And that's what I would say, is that when God's in it and his leading is clear, it's never for just one. He's not going to do something for one and against the others. It's for everybody. And he has so blessed that in so many ways.
That's beautiful. Not for one and against another, but for everybody.
It's true.
But your story, it's just beautiful. Y'all are so cute.
Thank you. When I think about even mine, as you know, your sister placed me in this beautiful role in Washington, D.C. And now I get to work with the nation's largest women's public policy organization in the country.
Which you would never have imagined.
Right.
No kidding.
You wouldn't have sat there and gone, okay, now this is what I'm going to do.
I could have never guessed.
Well, just like you, neither one of you. It
It
wouldn't
is
be like, this is
amazing.
where I'm going to be.
No kidding. And here I am with my
So-
little office in Washington, D.C. as opposed to Brentwood, Tennessee. But God works it all out. And it's just been amazing to both of us get to do work that we feel like matters when you look at life through your 100-year glasses. This matters in light of eternity. And I think it does.
Well, so put your feet one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Definitely don't let your situation define whether or not you can do something. And
be patient.
be
Be
patient.
patient. I mean, God's got something. I mean, we all have gifts. We all have gifts. And it takes a while to develop them to the point where you can share those gifts in it.
Yeah,
It's helpful.
I can't remember who the guy that said it. I'll have to put the quote up there, but he says we all have gifts. Some people just don't open the packages. So, anyway. All right. So today, as you go out, please just stop for a minute and say something encouraging and kind and uplifting to the person walking alongside you, because it is true. We're all there and walking alongside, not against. So thank you for saying something with us today.
Joy.
Okay.
This has been fun.
It's fun.
Thanks again for joining the conversation. We love hanging out with you guys. Want to stay connected? Like or follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or follow us on Instagram. See you next time on Say Something.